All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the infinite mind, Giordano Bruno, and the architecture of freedom. And look, we're going to establish the ultimate literal life or death stakes of independent thought right off the bat. Because this isn't just some dusty history lesson, okay? It's a mirror for our modern minds. And the insights we're about to get into are absolutely crucial for anyone trying to think clearly today. Just imagine that for a second, being burned alive. Not for committing a violent crime, not for theft, not for treason against a king, but simply for thinking, for looking dead at the absolute authorities of the 16th century and saying, you know what? Maybe you're wrong. That is the terrifying, unimaginable price Giordano Bruno paid just because he refused to accept the system's absolute certainty.
So there he is, standing in front of the most powerful institution on Earth at the time. They told him to take back his ideas and he could live, but instead he delivers this incredibly defiant statement. Perhaps you who condemn me are in greater fear than I who am condemned. I mean, wow. He wasn't just an astronomer looking through lenses. Actually, fun fact, the telescope hadn't even been invented yet. He was a philosopher, a true rebel of consciousness.
So let's get into Section 1, the price of independent thought, and shattering the cosmic ego.
Think about how wild this was. If we zoom out to the late 1500s, humanity essentially thought it was the CEO of existence. The widely accepted belief was that the universe was basically like a tiny apartment, with Earth sitting proudly right in the middle of the living room. But Bruno looks up at the night sky and proposes something absolutely radical. He says, no, the universe actually has no center. Space is infinite, those stars up there are actually other suns, and hey, other worlds probably exist. It was a complete shattering of humanity's tiny egocentric worldview, and he did it centuries before we had any modern astrophysics.
Which brings us to Section 2. Architecture of mental prisons, and why the brain actually prefers familiar lies.
You know, to really get why his ideas were so incredibly dangerous to the power structures of that era, we kind of have to jump from historical astronomy over to modern psychology. And the key here is cognitive dissonance. See, power structures, they survive through certainty, not necessarily truth. And human brains neurologically crave that certainty. When reality threatens who we think we are, it triggers a massive stress response. And that response makes people fiercely defend familiar lies over uncomfortable possibilities. So Bruno wasn't just threatening a map of the stars. He threatened the entire psychological architecture of his era, their religious authority, their intellectual conformity, and just their massive human ego. He challenged their entire sense of self.
And it's honestly fascinating to see how the technology of retribution has evolved, right? But the underlying human fear of new ideas, that hasn't changed one bit. Back in the 16th century, they used literal fire to punish heresy against religious authority. Today, the pitchforks are digital. We see cancellations, social isolation, tribal outrage, digital mob attacks. It's dressed up in different clothes, but it is the exact same psychology at play. That primal fear of the outsider who thinks differently is still completely wired into us.
Because here's the thing, most of us think freedom just means physical movement, the ability to go wherever you want, whenever you want. But true freedom, that's the ability to think beyond your conditioning. Right now, your family, your culture, your politics, your social media feeds, they are constantly downloading software into your consciousness, and most people literally never stop to examine the code. So we have to ask ourselves, are we confusing physical freedom with the actual freedom of an unprogrammed mind?
So I really want you to sit with this question for a second. What beliefs do you hold right now simply because questioning them feels dangerous? It's like a prisoner who knows he's in a prison might actually plan an escape. But a prisoner who genuinely believes the prison is reality, they will vigorously defend the cage.
Moving on to Section 3, Algorithms and Modern Surrender, Outsourcing the Mind.
Let's fast forward to the present day, because this threat has mutated into something even larger. Today, reality itself is basically becoming programmable. Algorithms are quietly influencing what you see, what you feel, what you believe, what you fear, what you buy, and even who you hate. You might think you're scrolling independently, but you're actually being psychologically nudged every single day. And this constant, invisible stream of information overload, it leads directly to intellectual passivity. We just stop investigating. We stop reflecting. We're essentially outsourcing our thinking, first to institutions centuries ago, and now, way more effectively, to algorithms.
All right, Section 4. Humility before the infinite, the universe versus the human ego.
If we zoom back out to the cosmos, Bruno had this incredible idea that divinity wasn't sitting outside the universe, but was actually expressed right through it. And interestingly enough, modern quantum physics and cosmology strangely echo this. The deeper science goes, the more deeply mysterious reality becomes. And that leads to a profound, maybe slightly terrifying realization. The universe is not designed around human comfort. Grasping that absolutely destroys the ego, sure, but it also creates immense awe. It proves that humility before the infinite is where true wisdom actually begins.
There's this psychological truth that perfectly captures why most people choose to stay mentally small. It goes, people do not fear darkness. They fear seeing clearly. Because clarity disrupts old identities. It forces you to transform. Illusion, on the other hand, is deeply, deeply addictive. Questioning reality feels emotionally dangerous because you risk losing social approval, certainty, comfort. Bruno literally lost his life for it. Meanwhile, most people today won't even risk a little social awkwardness. So let's talk solutions in Section 5, Building a Free Mind. Bruno's Blueprint for Escape. Okay, so how do we actually pull this off and escape our mental prisons without just turning into that arrogant rebel who ruins every family dinner? Well, here's Bruno's practical framework. First up, you've got to practice intellectual humility. Just try telling yourself, hey, I might be wrong. It instantly softens your certainty. Second, separate your identity from your beliefs so you don't feel personally attacked the second your ideas are challenged. Then, actively train your curiosity every day by seeking out opposing perspectives. And step 4, maybe the hardest one, learn to tolerate uncertainty. You have to embrace the mystery instead of demanding immediate emotional closure. And I really want to zero in on that final step, protecting your attention. Seriously, modern systems profit immensely from distracted minds. If you do not fiercely protect your silence, your moments of reflection, and your capacity for long-form thought, your shallow attention is inevitably going to create a highly programmable, shallow consciousness. A distracted person simply cannot think deeply enough to break out of their conditioning. It's just a fact.
Giordano Bruno lost his life a long, long time ago. But his real message, it totally survived. His legacy proves something absolutely essential. Every single breakthrough started as heresy to someone. Whether it's scientific, spiritual, or philosophical, human progress always requires the courage to seek the truth way beyond the boundaries of fear.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with Bruno's ultimate challenge. Will you live inside inherited ideas, or will you explore reality for yourself? You see, the greatest danger today isn't censorship, it's mental surrender. Your mind, much like the universe, is completely infinite, but it is entirely up to you to expand into it. So, choose to explore. Thanks for joining me today.